What's good, everyone? It's your boy Astalos back again with another Monster Hunter video, and let me tell you something, okay? I know that probably striking while the iron's hot, as they would say, is the best method. I wanted to let the hype kind of simmer down a little bit. I just had to take some time to just kind of keep to myself and really gather my thoughts so I could very articulately convey to you guys how I felt about the whole demo, because I do think I might find the demo a lot different from my fellow hunters in my hunting group and just the community as a whole. But there is some overlap in there as well. But this is more of like a podcasty episode, so feel free to just put this on the background and just do your thing. Or if you want to watch the video, then go ahead and watch. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this. I want to start this off by saying that I think that most people missed the point of this beta. Because I saw a lot of, oh, why is the beta online? Oh no, is this an online thing? I hope that the game is offline. Even in my own hunting party, people are like, oh, I hope that this isn't online all the time, that this isn't like World and we're going back to RPG or MMO style games. Let me tell you something, okay? This is what's called a stress test. I thought that was pretty obvious, but I've kind of had to adopt a mindset. Here's a little tip here's just a little real world tip. Throw common sense out the window, because what's common to you isn't common to me. Adapt that mindset and you will start to see that everyone thinks a little bit differently. Everyone's definition of common sense is a little different. So to me, it was fairly obvious what their goal was. They wanted to break the servers. In development, we call stress testing, but it's basically when you take your product and make it available to as many people as possible and intentionally try to break the servers. You try to prepare for the worst case scenario. So I think because I have no inside information, but I think that Capcom's ultimate goal was to just make this demo runnable and playable on as many consoles and PCs and PlayStations and Xboxes as possible, just to get people on the server and play the game. And the ultimate goal was to keep the servers running. And a game like Monster Hunter, which is basically a mainstream game at this point, you lost that on release day and things break, servers break, and that means no one can play the game. So yes, there are instances where in our hunting group with me and my friends that we all got disconnected, but at the end of the day, we could just hop right back online and just keep playing the game. No, when the server is broken, no one can play the game until the game is fixed. And so, as far as I know, the servers never broke. You just got disconnected and you just hop right back online. So in that sense, this beta test was a success. So everyone talking about performances and graphics issues and it didn't look right or it didn't feel right or there's control delay, I really don't think they were paying attention to that at all. I think that's more just in the optimization phase of the game. So for this specific build of the game, I do not think they were prioritizing that at all. And every Monster Hunter game I played in my experience, and just to list them out, those games include Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, Monster Hunter World Iceborne, and Monster Hunter Rise and Sunbreak. Those are the three games that I played. And in those three games, the controls have always felt very responsive, very fluid, and I haven't really had to think about it. Even in this, in my personal experience, I didn't really experience controller lag or any jitters with anything, but I know that is a very big topic in the community right now. So just because I didn't experience it doesn't mean it wasn't a thing. I very much do believe it was a thing, but I just don't think that was their top priority to fix that. In the respects of what I just said, understanding that their ultimate goal was just to keep people online and just keep the servers running, I do think the online system was kind of a mess. So, just from my vast and extensive knowledge of MMOs and RPGs, that I am the wise guru from all 2 MMOs I have played, that I understand how the system works a little bit, because The developer that I used to play the most MMOs from is a company called R6 Entertainment, which was a Flash-based company that their games ran on Flash, RIP Flash, but they had a system very similar to what Monster Hunter Wilds was trying to do. So from the lens of Arts Entertainment and their specific game, Adventure Quest World, I'm going to try to explain how this system works because it took us even my Hunter group, it took us quite a while to understand what's going on here. So on Adventure Quest World, you basically, after you log in, you're greeted with a list of servers you can join. And in that server, there could be anywhere from, I want to say like maybe at the peak, it's probably about 5,000 players online in one server, and on a normal day, it's probably about 300 players online. So a lot less stressful than this, but also not really, because each server or each whatever the instance is in Monster Hunter was about 100 players. So let's just use the server example. You log into server, and in that server, there are 100 people playing at the same time. Now, let's say I want to meet up with my friend a bug. We're not gonna really be able to find each other because we could be in Yogur's Inn, which is the den or the gathering hub, I guess you could say in Monster Hunter terms. But just because we both went to Yogur's Inn doesn't mean that we're gonna see each other. So I would send a bug a party invite. We're now connected. We could both do our own thing. We could both go. I could do the story stuff. I could go do boss rushes, or I could go meet up with my other friends. But me and a bug are connected through that party invite. Additionally, if a bug sees a really high level monster, it's like, yo, Salos, this is so cool. I found something really rare out here. He could then summon me to wherever he is in the server. And I could then go join him, and we could now meet up and go fight this monster he just saw. In concept, that's how this system was supposed to work. In execution, oh god, there was like environmental links, there were party chats, or you see, I have to use something outside the game to explain it, right? Because I didn't really understand what was really going on in Monster Hunter. So when we finally did meet up and understand and get to meet up with DP and a bug, we saw how it worked in concept. But good God, the execution was so messy. So I hope that there is a way that they streamline this and that they are able to make it easier for people to understand how this works, because I kid you not, I think we spent exactly 30 minutes trying to figure out how this system worked. And through that analogy, I hope that kind of illustrates why when we all were in the Hunter settlement, how even though we were, if you or your friend were in the same 100-man lobby or whatever, that you guys couldn't see each other. So I'm standing by Alma. It's like, no, you're not. I don't see you. That's because in Wilds, from those 100 players, only 16 hunters appear in the hunter settlement at a time. So if the game could populate a different 16 players of the 100 players than for you. So a bug might populate for me, but for DP, a bug didn't populate. He's still there. You just can't see it because it's not going to show 100 players all in one setting. So I think that's also where some of the confusion came from as well. Again, I just don't think it was explained well at all. So my number one wish, if any developer sees this video, just make the online system a little easier to understand, because I don't think anyone really knew what was going on at the time. Now, I've heard some talks about the story, and people are already starting to speculate where the story is going to go, and I'm just going to outright say it. Monster Hunter has never had a good story. Okay. The World fanboys are going to come at me saying that World had a good story or whatever. No, it really didn't. You want to know what the World story reminds me of? It reminds me of one of those boat rides you find at Universal Studios. Actually, I think it's exactly Universal Studios, where there's a Cat in the Hat ride where you jump into the boat, you ride through, there are all these animatronics, and to your left, you'll see the Cat in the Hat. To the right, you will see the two kids' names who I cannot remember because I saw that movie when I was 5. If you look directly ahead, you will see Thing 1 and Thing 2. And down the waterfall, you will then see the mother of all monsters or whatever. That's what that reminds me of. The world story is very like animatronic, going through a ride and touring and seeing all the monsters, and there's a plot line to follow to keep you on track. But ultimately, was anyone actually playing Monster Hunter World to understand the mystery behind the Elder Crossing? Be honest, were you really thinking about that the entire time? No, you weren't. You were there to kill monsters. So don't come at me saying the world story was good. Now, am I saying Monster Hunter stories are always bad? No, there actually have been some genuine moments in the Monster Hunter series where I think the story was actually had potential to be good. One of the biggest, and I'm so mad that I didn't have recording devices back then, or I didn't really know how to use my Elgato back then, but it was in Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, the quest Gathering of the Curio, which was, I think, one of the best illustrations of showing why we do what we do for monsters. Because that was the first time where you got to see that this curio situation that we're going after was actually destroying the ecosystem. All you saw was that you saw dead monsters everywhere. All the endemic life, because Monster Hunter is always about the environment. Even in a game like Rise, it was always beaming with life. You saw spirit birds everywhere to give yourself some buffs. No, this ecosystem was dead. There was nothing there. There was no endemic life. There was nothing. And the only thing that was there was the target afflicted Luna Garen. That was the only form of life left in that ecosystem. And that just showed you, if we don't get this situation under control, this will be the entire Elgato sentiment. Never once was that spoken. Never once did the game tell you what was going on. Mainly because we're a silent protagonist. But even so, never once did they outright tell you, but you understood, because the game you've been playing up until this point is a game beaming with life everywhere and at every turn and every corner. And to see that stripped and devoided from you, that told you everything you needed to know. I'm just gonna say that based off what I saw in this demo, and based what I'm seeing about these rumors, which are turning out to be a pretty credible source, then I think that we might be in for a pretty good story. But like I've been emphasizing, we're not here for the story. I mean, there's a solid majority of people that are here for the story, but I'm just saying most people are here for the monsters and the weapons. And let me tell you, I still don't know what weapon I'm gonna play. If you guys don't know, I did make a tier list a while back that was basically me just trying to understand, because the way I play Monster Hunter games, or the way I like to enjoy them, is that every game I pick a new weapon to quote-unquote main. My main is Dual Blaze, by the way. Like, I'm always going to be a Dual Blaze main till the day I die, but every game for like the story segment, I guess you could say, and the expansion or whatever that's going to be in this case, I always choose to main a brand new weapon, because eventually I want to get to the point where I can know all 14 weapons and be the king of all hunters and know how to play every weapon and change on the whim like I have master control of the Omnitrix or something. But this time I've just been so stumped, because I don't want to say none of the weapons left don't interest me, but I just didn't know what route I wanted to go down. But after playing the demo, I think I've narrowed it down, and it made it even more difficult because now we can have 2 weapons on us at all times. So I didn't want to bring dual blades, because I feel like if I'm learning a new weapon, I'm just gonna default back to what I know, because that's just how we're wired as humans, we typically stick to what we know. So I didn't want to bring dual blades, but I also didn't want to have the overwhelm of trying to learn 2 weapons at the same time. So that's really the real predicament I've been in at this point. But I think I've finally narrowed it down thanks to this demo. So I'm gonna start with the most likely combo I'm gonna do, followed by a very close second, because I'm gonna have 2 weapon pairings. So the most likely pairing that I'm gonna do is Charge Blade and Gun Lance. And I did say a long time ago, I promise you guys will see this eventually. But back in my world playthrough, I did say before the whole Gun Lance hype happened, everyone was just blown away by that Gun Lance showcase. I did say that I was going to try to learn the Gun Lance. And I still think that can be true. Let me just say about the Gun Lance. I didn't really play Gun Lance all that much, so that's why I'm kind of freeballing this. But it's really because of the other weapon that I played in the demo, which is what the weapon that I learned in World, the Charge Blade. And Gun Lance and Charge Blade have a lot of very synergistic skills. They both use Rapid Morph, if that's gonna come back. So there's a lot of skills that work well together in terms of that. I wanted 2 weapons that synergize well with each other. And let me just say, I may not be able to say much about the Gun Lance because I didn't play it all that much, but for the Charge Blade, I'm just gonna say it. I think the Charge Blade might be one of the strongest weapons in the game, because they did so much to that weapon. They fixed pretty much all my complaints with the Rise Sunbreak counterpart of the Charge Blade. I feel like in that game they ruined Charge Blade because they took away all the depth and complexities of the weapon, which I think you could say about most weapons in that game, which is also why I don't think that... I know Rise has a lot, that's a whole beast within itself, but at the end of the day, if you don't nail the weapons and you don't nail the monsters, then the community is not gonna like the game. And I feel like on not just the Charge Blade, every weapon in Rise came down to their gimmick. The dual blades were just the weapons that you just kind of mash until the monster's dead with. The Charge Blade, you just spam pizza cutters. But that's where I feel like most people lost most people, that their weapons that they spent all this time investing and learning how to use their weapon to their fullest capacity has just been stripped away. When you take away options and combo routes, you take away a certain level of identity with the player, because everyone plays their weapon a little bit differently. If you notice, like with Charge Blade, I always start... I know it's not optimal at all, but most people with Charge Blade, they just press the... I forgot what button it is, but they pretty much just unsheath their weapon and then just start going into sword and shield mode and just start charging up, doing the 3-piece combo to get the files and all that stuff going. What I always do is I always do an overhead slash and morph it immediately into axe mode, and then I morph from my axe mode into sword and shield mode. I don't know why I do it. I just feel like that it's just a nice way to get a good chunk of damage. It's a very wide-reaching move, so you can pretty much... You don't have to worry about positioning too much because you're probably going to hit the monster anyway. And then you just instantly morph into your sword and shield mode and just start to do your 3-piece combos to build up your kinetic energy. So that's what I'm just saying, that there's little things like that. Everyone plays their weapon slightly differently. And to have that removed, you're going to lose some people in the process. So not only is the Charge Blade no longer just how many pizza cutters can you land in one sitting, pizza cutter being the super amped element discharge, by the way, but it's not how many pizza cutters you can land in one hunt. Now the pizza cutter is reserved for the end of a combo route. The fastest way to get into your pizza cutter now would actually technically the fastest way would be doing a perfect block and then just going into an SAD the same way you would probably do in Rise in a sense. But the real fastest way, the way that I like to do it the most, is you go from an amped element discharge, hold back in the controller, and then do a super amped element discharge. That's the fastest way to go about it. But the way that, well, the most damaging way is that now I forget what the move is called. If I can find it, then it'll be on screen right here right now. But it's the pretty much the move from the trailer that's probably what you guys are looking at, by the way. It's pretty much when you do like a roundhouse slash with the charge blade, and then you go into a super amped element discharge right after that. That's 3 different ways you can go about doing super amped element discharge, and I feel like that is a very good change, because that is 3 different ways and 3 different possibilities on how people can go about doing your big damaging move with the charge blade. That's what I like about the charge blade, is that it's a very versatile and is a very adaptable weapon. Is very situational, and depending on the situation you're in, the charge blade has an option for you. Giving that weapon's complexity back is a net positive for me, and I can't say it because I've already learned the ins and outs in the world, but people are saying the charge blade feels easier to learn in this game. I can't expound on that. That's just what I've heard. I don't know how true that actually is, but if that's true, then that's cool, because I want to see more charge blade users. And if people find it to be less of the big brain calculus weapon, then by all means. In my opinion, I don't think charge blade is a hard weapon. It's a lot to wrap your mind around. I'll give it that. It's very intimidating and daunting to learn, but if you actually sit down and take the time to learn it, you'll understand the weapon is really not that hard. But if it's really just a matter of people understanding the charge blade is really not that hard, or if Wilds did something to make it a lot easier, then let me know. If you guys played charge blade for the first time and you found it daunting in the past, but the Wilds demo made it more accessible, please let me know in the comments what changes they made that made it seem less intimidating to pick up. But also, I will say that I feel like charge blade is one of the weapons that benefits the most off of focus mode, and we'll get to focus mode. But specifically, most weapons I've noticed, their focus attacks aren't really that great. And the one complaint I always had with charge blade is that the sword and shield aspect of the weapon always felt like an afterthought. It feels like for a charge blade, you go into your sword and shield just to block and just to build up your files, and that's it. No, with focus mode, I forget what the attack name is actually called, but you pretty much just lock onto the monster and you just go into like a whole hack and slash mania festival on the monster, and it feels so fast and agile and nimble. You can always cancel out of it, and you can do like the little cha-cha slide to get out the way. The sword and shield aspect of the weapon actually feels extremely fun to play, because I feel like the best fun that's always had with charge blade is usually when you have enough files to go into your axe mode and just unleashing all your file damage on the monster, and using those stagger points to go into your sword and shield mode to just kind of do pot shots. But the sword and shield mode feels very fun. I feel like a part of that is that they felt like if they leaned too hard into the sword and shield aspect of the charge blade, then the actual sword and shield will become irrelevant. But I'm glad that they finally made it feel fun to play. And focus striking isn't really something that I feel like most weapons can take advantage of. So the fact that charge blade makes it all the better. And being able to use focus mode to actually aim your super amped element discharges, man, I feel like charge blade absolutely won. And even when with focus mode specifically, you use your focus strike attack to build up, I guess, like wounds on the monster, and if you pop a wound, then that's how you actually activate your Savage Axe style and of the weapon, I guess the Power Axe, whichever you want to say. And one change to the Savage Axe playstyle I love is that even if you don't have any files, the buff doesn't go away. It's just like how it was in Rise, but it's not tied to a freaking switch skill, which I absolutely hated. If you didn't take the switch skill, you just didn't have Savage Axe, which was so stupid to me. There's actually 2 ways you can I think 3 ways actually. The first way is like I just said with the focus strike. The second way is if you do a perfect block, you can just go straight into Savage Axe that way. And the third is by doing a power clash. And when you win the power clash, then you can go into your Savage Axe playstyle. I know that is a thing I wasn't able to do in the demo. Maybe I wasn't pressing the right buttons, but I know that is a way, because I've seen people do it. So I know that if you win a power clash on the monster, you can also go into your Savage Axe that way. So honestly, the charge blade feels pretty nice, and I would love to continue my learning from what I've learned in World. And I feel like I wouldn't I wouldn't default to Charge Blade all the time because there are some monsters out there where the Charge Blade just absolutely rips it a new one, and there are some monsters where the Charge Blade just feels terrible to play, and I just don't want to. Like Fierce Rajang for a second, for example. I would never fight Fierce Rajang with a Charge Blade because he's just way too mobile to use Savage Axe against. So I feel like in those scenarios, I can do like the whole Gun Lance and I can do shelling. And that's also why I like Gun Lance as well, because all the different types of shellings really do feel like different weapons. So there might be instances where I just choose to take 2 Gun Lances instead of bringing the Charge Blade along. So I don't feel like Charge Blade would override my enjoyment for the weapon, for learning a new weapon, but it'd also be like a nice little safety net that if I feel like there's just a monster I can't beat with the Gun Lance, then Charge Blade's right there for me and I can learn all the new bells and whistles because they did so much to this weapon. So Charge Blade and Gun Lance is one of my potential pairings, but a very close second is Hammer and Dual Blades. And I do want to, this isn't something I really understood too much when the demo was live, which I wish I really did explore more into it, but there is a whole mechanic called the offset, which I didn't know was actually a thing, but I do know the Hammer has an offset attack. So if I want to interact with that system, the Hammer is a really good way to go about it, but also the Hammer just feels great because one thing I've always loved about the Hammer in Monster Hunter is that it's a big, powerful weapon that has a lot of mobility, which has always just been so intriguing to me that this big, meaty weapon can move a lot faster than you might think. And now that you have the little clutch claw attack to reposition and it has iframes on it, woo! I think that the Hammer is looking very nice. When I actually played it, it felt so good, especially with the new attack, the I wanna rock and roll all night. That attack, I actually think that attack specifically is tied with True Charge Slash for the hardest hitting attack in the beta, which was, if I can have the power of a greatsword and the mobility of a hammer, yes, please. Because in Rise, I felt like there was absolutely no reason to use the hammer over the hunting horn, because hunting horn just felt like hammer with more steps. But they really did a good job of finding a fine balance between hammer and hunting horn, because for a lot of times the lines really were blurred on why would I ever use the hammer when hunting horn is right there. So I'm glad that they gave the hammer an identity again, and for that reason I feel very confident that I might very well go into the hammer route. And my beloved dual blades, I'm going to try to keep this as short as sweet as possible because I could probably be here all day talking about dual blades. I will say this. There is a very real chance that if I put dual blades on me at any time, I'm going to completely forget about that brand new weapon, and I'm just going to hard commit to the dual blades lifestyle. But the dual blades got so good, you guys. The dual blades felt amazing. We have the switch skill dodge from Rise, which also, if you do a perfect evade, you also get a flat damage increase on your element and raw just by doing a perfect evade. You get the Arch Demon mode is actually useful now. You can swap between Arch Demon mode while you're doing your blade dance, and oh, the dual blades just felt so good and so nice. The only thing I will say is that maybe because it's an unoptimized build, but the dual blades, I feel like for everything I just said that they felt very nice. I was hitting a lot of 1s and 2s. If you weren't aiming for a monster weak spot, the dual blades actually did no damage. So I might attribute that to just the fact that these builds were suboptimal, but yeah, if that's the case, then that's why I have the hammer right there. If I need to do some damage, I can do some damage. And if I need to be quick and nimble, then I have the dual blades right there as well. But honestly, I love this pairing as well. But I think that in terms of learning a new weapon, I'm leaning more towards the hammer. But because of how well the gun lance synergized with Charge Blade and just how much sauce the Charge Blade got, I'm very considering going the gun lance route just so I can try out Charge Blade a little bit more. So that's the dilemma I'm in right now, but we still got time to figure it out. Now, the focus mode. I've got a lot to say about focus mode. Like I said in the weapons part just now, that weapons like the charge blade do benefit from focus mode a lot. Not being able to miss your SAEDs feels very good. So it's actually very cool that some weapons really do benefit from it, but all weapons were not created equal when it came to using the focus mode. Like dual blades for example, I never saw a need to actually use it because everyone was so happy that we got Demon Flight, and Demon Flight is your focus mode attack for the dual blades. But it's not like how it was in Rise, because in Rise you slammed your dual blades on the ground and that propelled you into the air to do the Attack on Titan move. Now you just slam your dual blades on the ground and that's it. I don't want to say it feels like a waste, but some weapons absolutely need to break wounds, okay? Dual blades is not one of them. I would feel very bad and very selfish to break a wound when I have an insect glaive user on my team that needs to break a wound to get all their extracts. And all I get to do is say, ooh, look, I did my Attack on Titan, isn't that so cool? So it just feels so imbalanced, because why does dual blades get absolutely nothing from breaking a wound, while insect glaive over here is his own can of worms that I'm not gonna get into, and then I just while they're fighting their literal own demons, while they're fighting their own weapon, now I'm also gonna take away their chance to get all their buffs in one go too. It just feels so wrong, I guess. So I don't really know how to feel about that. And then for weapons that actually do need focus mode, I think that everyone has came to the consensus that Charge Blade and Insect Glaive are the two weapons that need focus mode the most, because when we actually break a wound, that's how I get my Savage Axe playstyle, and that's how a bug gets all of his Kinsect bonuses. So it turns into like you're turning the hunters against each other, because now it's like, well, a bug, I know you need your extracts, but I need to get Savage Axe. And yes, I did just say that I can get Savage Axe by doing power clashes, but power clashes the best way to think about it is to think about power clashes like a status ailment. You have to perfect guard against a monster a certain amount of times to even get a power clash. I don't know, the most consistent way to get Savage Axe is to just break a wound. You can say the same exact thing for Insect Glaive too. They can actually see exactly where they need to harvest the monster and for their different Kinsect bonuses. So there's an argument on both sides. We don't need to break wounds to get to our specific modes. It just makes it a lot easier. But my counter argument to that is, why are you turning the teammates against each other? Wouldn't it just make more sense that if I break the wound, then maybe, like, I don't know, the spores or whatever get to a bug and we all get our bonuses because that wound broken, now a bug gets his power extracts or whatever, and I get my Savage Axe buffs. I don't have a perfect solution to that, but all I'm saying is that if we're playing in co-op, it shouldn't turn into a competition on who breaks the wounds first. And me and a bug are over here fighting over which wound to break, and then a bow user just snipes it from the distance, breaks a wound, and they get absolutely nothing from breaking a wound. You see what I'm saying here? All I'm saying is that I don't like how we're being pitted against each other and how reliant some weapons are on breaking wounds, while other weapons you get absolutely nothing for it, and they can also break wounds super easily, like the bow. That's all I'm saying, is that make it make sense. If you're gonna make it so that some weapons need to break wounds, make it beneficial for all the weapons, or just don't make it that beneficial for any of them. And last but certainly least are the monsters. And I say that because I don't want to waste you guys' time. If I don't feel strongly towards something, I'm not going to sit here and act like I am. I didn't really care about the monsters in this demo. The only monsters I felt anything towards is Raydao. And I guess Dashiguma too, to an extent. He was kind of cool. And I think that people kind of underestimated Dashiguma, because that wasn't the one we were supposed to be fighting. Was an Alpha Dashaguma. The other ones that were around him, those are their own monsters as well. We can just fight just regular Dashagumas. But I think that there are going to be like Alpha Rajangs and maybe even an Alpha Raydao. Oh, God. But it kind of reminds me of the system in Pokemon Legends Arceus with Alpha Pokemon in that game. The Alpha Pokemon were significantly larger than their regular counterparts. They had at least 3 guaranteed perfect IVs, which are basically saying they had 3 perfect stats, and they were typically higher level than your typical Pokemon. If you actually fought a regular Dashaguma, then the difference between a regular Dashaguma and an Alpha Dashaguma is that they hit a little harder, they move a little faster, they have slightly different move sets. So it's not a huge difference, but if you want that higher grade of challenge, then alphas are going to be. I just want to kind of see other alpha monsters in the game. Like can you guys imagine an Alpha Furious Rajang? That's if Furious Rajang's even in this game, that's another thing we have to keep in mind. I don't really hear some people talking about the alpha species all that much, but it's a mechanic I think people are sleeping on. But don't sleep on alphas. Let me tell you, when we see other alpha monsters in this game, I think you guys will really start to see that alphas are something to be threatened. I just don't think that Dashagun was the best monster to showcase it on, because I do think he is a low tier monster. So wait till you get to those higher tier monsters that have alpha variants. I think you guys are going to start to see the true power of alphas at that point. Initially, Raydao left a very good impression, but after going back and fighting him after a certain amount of times, he's actually kind of mid. Because his attacks are very telegraphed. They are extremely telegraphed, like holy crap. And I know everyone talks about the railgun attack that he has, but honestly, it's a double-edged sword, because if he catches you with your pants down, then yeah, you're gonna get nuked. But because he's so precise with his electric attacks, if you have a weapon like the dual blades, you can just run away from that one spot and he won't attack you at all, because it is so hyper focused on where you were that if you can get away fast enough, then it's just not an issue at all. So the more I fought Raydao, the more I started to see that he left a very cool impression, but the more you fight him, the more you realize he ain't that guy. And I saved this till the very end because this is what's got my gears turning, and it does go towards the story a little bit as well. So this is your last chance to turn back, because we are talking about leaks, and so far this specific leak hasn't been wrong so far, and he's been calling a lot of things. So this is your last chance. If you don't want to know about leaks, or you want to see things as Capcom wants us to know information, this is your last chance to turn around. You gone? Alright, so the White Wraith, Arkveld, I think this is how you say his name, the flagship of this game, he's what's called an extinct species. We don't know what that means, we just know it's a thing. But here's the kicker, we are seeing other monsters in that same category of extinct species. We have confirmation of an extinct Rathalos and an extinct Dashaguma. So that kind of hints at that that this whole thing might be another 4 Ultimate situation, and also for some reason in the base game, the strongest monsters in the game are legendary monsters, which is basically, I guess, going to be like the Arch-Temper system from World or the Risen monsters from Rise. But the strongest monsters in there are legendary Gormagala and legendary Arkveld. You fight legendary Gormagala at Hunter rank 90, and you fight legendary Arkveld at Hunter rank 100. So one thing that I think that people don't understand is that the reason why Gormagala could be in Elgato and not cause a 4 Ultimate situation are because of the presence of the Curio. Because the Curios were so infectious and so violent and so parasitic that the Frenzy virus literally could not thrive and conquer, because the Curios has such a stronghold over the ecosystem. But now that the Curio are not a thing, I am almost positive that Gormagala is going to influence the story to an extent. And as we've seen in quests like Gathering of the Curio, that's going to be interesting to see. That maybe Gormagala's frenzy virus are making these monsters go extinct. Maybe that's why we're seeing like extinct Rathalos and extinct Dashigumas. If that's true, this story might be a little insane. Before I end the video, here are just a couple of things that I noticed about the demo and I have thoughts about, but they didn't really have a nice way to segue into the points that I talked about in the video. So these are just a bunch of random things I noticed and I have some thoughts about. First one, mantles are back. And I know that mantles are a little bit of a divisive topic because some people love them, some people hate them. I'm somewhere in the middle because I am a fashion hunter first and foremost. I spend a lot of time customizing my looks in video games. So to have like this tarp just kind of thrown over you is kind of an eyesore, especially when the mantle runs out. It's just like this black hood or something. It's not even like cool or anything. It's just like a black tarp with some white lines on it. I hate the way mantles look when they deactivate. So I know you have to remember to take them off, but also when the battle ends, your hunter just takes it off automatically. So it's like, why can't you just take it off when it runs out? I don't know. Mantle's effects are very cool, like damage reduction on elemental attacks, and my personal favorite, Battleon mode, if you know, you know. Then yeah, I kind of do like the effects of them. I just hope that they just don't look so ugly this time around. And we did have the Gilly Mantle in the Wilds demo, and it looked alright, but I don't know. I just hope that they're not too intrusive for style hunting like how they were in the past. There's also the whole seamless transitions, which is also, it's been a thing in video games for a while now. But I love how when the cutscene ends, it was in World as well, that the cutscene ends, you just go straight into the action. It was in the story mission where we rescue the girl and the Sacred. It's really nice to just see that kind of stuff in video games. So I love the way that they're really doubling down on the seamless transitions because it just makes the whole game flow so much nicer. And it's also complemented by the fact that our hunters are not silent protagonists anymore, which some people actually have an issue with. Some people like silent protagonists. If you like silent protagonists, please explain that to me in the comment section. I would love to have a conversation about that. I know that was a thing in Rise as well, but your hunter had a voice, but they didn't really talk all that much. But I love how your hunter is actively contributing to the story. And I get the main argument for a silent protagonist is that you can put yourself in the shoes and that you are a part of the world, so they don't give you a voice because you are that person. But no, that's not me. That's my video game character. Like in Persona, I am not Joker. That's Joker. I don't know. I like it. I am personally all here for it, and I really hope that our hunter does play a big role in the story. Also, this was kind of sort of a thing in Rise, but not really, that you can just outright skip the whole 1 minute wait after you slay a monster. So that's just a very nice quality of life that is just, I just feel like it's just a net positive because we do not need to go back to just waiting 1 minute for the quest to end. Like, what was actually the point of that? And I also love how Alma just kind of rides around with you. She's not just like, okay, I'll wait for you to come back. Our handler is actually out here in the field with us. She's in the thick of it. Because if you look out to her to the side, she's usually taking notes or observing how you're hunting. And even she comments like, it's always a treat to watch you hunt, Hunter. It's just little things that just shows that she's actually out there with us and she's putting her life on the line alongside us. It really does go and reinforce that even though they're not hunting, that you are a duo, and that is your partner in crime. But that's pretty much all I have to say about the demo. And overall, I had a blast with the demo. It was a lot of fun, and I'm very glad that I was able to have time to hunt with my partners in crime, both DP and a bug. Thank you for everything you've done for the demo for me and allowing me to tag along in you all's experiences as well. And I can't wait for the whole game to come out. Hopefully we'll get an official demo before the game comes out so we can hunt and have one last hunt, because I'd love to try out the gun lance and I want to learn more about these weapons and just learn more about this game in general, because it was such a limited time and that was a very busy week for me as well. So I didn't get a chance to play it as much as I'd like to. But a proper demo, I don't think anyone would object to that. Playing more of the game before it comes out. Who's gonna say no to that? But with all that being said, I've been yapping on long enough. If you guys have anything to say about anything I've said in the video, then go ahead and drop in the comments below, because I always say that these discussion videos are not me just saying that this is the end-all be-all and that my word is final. If you have something to comment on, or you don't agree with something I said, or your experience is different than mine, leave in the comments, because that's all this is. These are like springboards to start discussions about what we all love, which is Monster Hunter. So go ahead and drop in the comments, and I will be reading every comment, and I'll be responding to as many as I can. With all that being said, I'm about to get about. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next episode. Till then, deuces.